of sports on NewsX World. Let's take a look at some of the top stories of sports this week. India produced a stunning run chase against West Indies to secure a semi-final versus England and knock their opponents out of the T20 World Cup in a 5-wicket victory in their last Super 8s match. Arsenal reopened a 5-point lead at the top of the Premier League table as their set-piece prowess helped them to a 2-1 victory over 10-man Chelsea at the Emirates Stadium. Floyd Mayweather will have an exhibition before he fights old rival Manny Pacquiao later this year. The American superstar will take part in an exhibition against kickboxer Mike Zambadis in June in Athens. Shane Lowry says he threw away victory at the Cognizant Classic after finding water on both of the 16th and 17th holes. The Ryder Cup star, who held a 3-shot lead, finished 2 shots behind winner Nico Echevarria on a 15 under par, sharing second place. Luke Littler's bid to participate in the Sidemen charity match was unequivocally rejected by YouTube sensation KSI. When asked if he had responded to Littler's request, KSI simply replied, "I have not responded and he is not in." India delivered a stunning run chase against West Indies to secure a spot in the semi-finals of the T20 World Cup. Sanju Samson's brilliant 97 not out of 50 balls, breaking the record for the highest T20 World Cup chase by an Indian, helped India top West Indies 194 by 4 with 4 balls to spare. Samson sealed the victory with 2 winning boundaries in the final over. India will now face England in a highly anticipated semi-final on Thursday in Mumbai. This will be the 3rd consecutive T20 World Cup semi-final between the two teams. Both teams have previously beaten each other in memorable contests, with India looking to avenge past defeats. The match promises to be a thrilling encounter. West Indies, despite a solid team effort, with key contributions from captain Shai Hope and Jason Holder, couldn't defend their score, and their campaign ends here. Hope expressed regret, saying it's disappointing to end at this stage, but praised his team's performance throughout the tournament. We're now being joined by Shekhar Vijayan, who's a sports journalist and international commentator, joining us from Bangalore. Thank you so much for joining us here today on our World of Sports channel. What very highly anticipated match coming up on Thursday between India and England. And as we know, there's always a thrilling game between the two, no matter when. What could we expect in this game going up? How do you think India's preparing for it? And how do you think England feels now after hearing that they will be facing India?
Lily, thank you for having me over. I think first things first, India played really well yesterday against West Indies, especially Sanju Samson. He really showed application which really matters when you play the winning runs for India. Now coming to India's game against England in the semi-finals. This is going to happen in a packed stadium in Bombay, in the Wankhede Stadium, which is, I'm sure it's going to be a pitch which is going to play on both sides in terms of runs. And it's going to be a very interesting game. Here, the game is going to be decided in the power play. Both the teams, both England as well as India, are very entertaining, very enigmatic teams. England especially in the T20 format is very different from a lot of other teams. They have a good batting, they have a good bowling, and they also know how to manage the resources well. In the case of India, India's coming off a very, very well fought victory, which really makes a difference here in terms of how they look at things, in terms of how they approach things. India's got players for every occasion. In the case of England, it is going to be about the players like Harry Brook, the captain, Joss Butler, who's not been in form of late. But it takes if he's in for more than 10 balls, he can create havoc for the opposition team. The main thing here is you have players from both England and India who play in the IPL, who know each other's strengths as well as weaknesses. So that's going to be interesting in terms of the players knowing each other. England, like I told you earlier, is a very interesting team in T20, in ICC tournaments. They understand the game well. India with the home crowd support, India with the kind of talent it has in display, India is so explosive in terms of batting and in terms of bowling. What India really would need to focus on here is making sure that the fielding is top notch. They convert the half chances to full chances. Their fielding has been the Achilles heel in the entire tournament. They've dropped a few important chances, but somehow they've got a player who've always risen to the occasion. Now this is the match which is going to be really important in the semi-final, because your half chances have to be converted into full chances. Your batting really has to perform well as a unit, as a batting unit. Your bowling is not just one bowler coming to the party, not as Jasprit Bumrah. You would need a Varun Chakraborty coming to the party. Also, you would need a Hardik Pandya also coming in, and you would need everybody to chip in with wickets. India really should be focusing on, not just thinking of things tactically against England, but about playing their natural game, playing the game which has gotten so much of success so far. Each player in the team understands his role, has clarity about what he needs to do in terms of batting, bowling, and fielding, and they need to convert that. I think in such close encounters where India plays against England or in the semi-finals, the fielding really makes a difference. The fielding adds, if you misfield, it adds 10 runs to the game. And 10 runs is a lot of runs in T20. So fielding is going to be important. Your catches are going to be important. Your batting is, of course, going to be most important. But I always believe, be it T20, be it ODI, be it Test, it is your bowlers which win you the games, not the batsmen. The batsmen, yes, it's a very glamorous field, no doubt. But it's the bowlers who do all the hard work. It's the bowlers who set up things for you. So in the case of India, we've got Jasprit Bumrah, who's a world-class bowler. We've got Varun Chakraborty, who's been India's the number one T20 bowler of the world. But he's been off the ball in this World Cup. As an opposition, the opposing teams have tried to sort him out, and he could come to the party against England, because I also believe England's Achilles heel is good quality spin. So if India just plays to the strength, which is playing spin and making sure the batsmen score good runs, and they score at a good rate, I think that could be the difference. We're looking out for a very interesting and a very entertaining game on the 4th of March in a packed stadium in Bombay. And I'm sure all the Indians, not only in India but across the world, are going to be backing India because India as a team is extremely entertaining and extremely delightful to watch as a team.
And India's batting lineup has seen an emerging star performer come through in almost every game. Is this a sign that the boys in blue are evolving from having a few staple stars to trying to field an all-round team going forward?
So, Ellie, I think T20, the game has also evolved a lot. The game is not just about, slam bang and, and you start laughing after that. I think the game has evolved in terms of every player having clarity about what they need to do, how much they need to score, and why they need to score at a quick rate. That is one. The second thing here, which is going to be important for India, is also the fact that India, there's no dearth of talent. I think more than talent, it's about application. It's about, you might have all the talent, all the ability in the world, but if you're not able to perform on the big day, then it makes no difference. So they need to, I think the way India has evolved in this game, in this entire tournament is, we've always had one player who's actually raised his hand and said, you know what, I'll make my team win. In the last game, it was Sanju Samson, who played a brilliant innings, an innings which was polished, and in the innings which had a lot of substance, and an innings where he was very smooth. And there was a typical, very unlike a Sanju Samson innings. A Sanju Samson innings is actually quite fast, quite exhilarating. But this innings was almost like a Rolls Royce. He was there till the end, and he made sure India won. So I think in the case of India as a team, I think players are, raising the hand, taking accountability, taking responsibility. They're not just happy with a century or two, and it's not about the centuries also. It's about making sure the team crosses the finish line. So you may not need to have a century, you may not need to score the big runs, but you need to score at a fast clip, which is going to be really important. So it's about strike rate, it's about impact, it's about taking wickets, it's about converting the half chances into full chances. It's about that, brilliant style of fielding, which could be the X factor between India and England.
Thank you so much for joining us here on our World of Sport channel. Thank you. We now move over to football, where Manchester City will face Real Madrid in the Champions League last 16, while Chelsea will meet holders Paris Saint-Germain. Chelsea could have been drawn against an all-English tie with Newcastle, but Eddie Howe's side will instead face Spanish champions Barcelona. Premier League leaders Arsenal, who topped the group stage with a perfect record, will take on German side Bayer Leverkusen. Six-time winners Liverpool will take on Galatasaray, and Tottenham will play Atletico Madrid. In the quarterfinals and semi-finals, if Manchester City progress past Real Madrid, they will face either Bayern Munich or Atlantica. Chelsea and Liverpool are set for a potential clash if they eliminate PSG and Galatasaray respectively. Arsenal will face Bodo Glimt or Sporting if they beat Leverkusen, and could meet Barcelona, Newcastle, Atletico or Tottenham in the semi-finals. We're now being joined by Pradyumna Tendulkar, who's an Indian ambassador to the FIFA World Cup. Thank you so much for joining us here on our World of Sports. So considering the challenges facing top clubs like PSG and Real Madrid, do you believe this could be the year for a surprise team to make a deeper run into the competition?
Firstly, thank you so much for having me here. And while we are at the coverage of sports, a quick word on the things that need to just calm down around whatever's happening around us, and hope the entire football fan base gets back to cheering for the beautiful game after whatever's happening out there. But coming to your question, yes, surprise winner does look likely, but given the experience of the clubs that are listed in the round of 16, as you correctly mentioned, some of the teams including Bayern Munich, Liverpool, also to some extent, yes, Chelsea, and with the given run of form, you may never know if there's a surprise team that could just go all the way to a potential higher stage of the tournament. It's Bodo Glimt, because the kind of performance they showed by beating Inter Milan, and that too comprehensively, I guess they could just spring up a surprise or two in the long run. But eventually, when it comes to situations in the business end of such high-stake competitions, it's experience that counts. So till the quarterfinals, you might see surprise, but if anything clicks beyond the quarterfinals, yes, you definitely might see an underdog winner.
And how does the potential for an all-English quarter-final with Chelsea, Liverpool, Manchester City and Arsenal all facing formidable opponents impact the tournament's overall dynamics and excitement?
While they're having their own issues in their own domestic competitions or in the club structure as well, be some club is handling injuries, some club handling form issues, Chelsea having a change in reign recently with Liam Rosenior, still trying to figure out his potential squad that could compete on all fronts. And with the recent loss to Arsenal, definitely Rosenior must have got some of his answers in the Champions League build-up as well. But yes, there is a strong possibility where a Chelsea-Liverpool quarterfinal might just happen, provided the PSG challenge is executed fiercely well. On the other hand, Liverpool does look like they might just progress smoothly over the Turkish giants. Also, at the same time, yes, Guardiola having his final stay at Man City after announcing his departure. So, yes, that could be a very well ending to his Man City career with as high finish as possible. But looking at the entire scenario, yes, 50 to 75% probability of an all-English, at least quarterfinals. I'm not sure about how the semi-finals or the final might just pan out. If it's an all-English final, it just would be a repeat of whatever happened recently when Man City won the last Champions League as an English club. So fingers crossed for an all-English or all-Premier League quarterfinal or potential future knockout stages.
Thank you for joining us here on our World of Sports. Thank you so much. We now move on to the F1 as the 2026 Formula One season draws very near. A key issue surrounding engine compression ratios has been resolved in a compromise between the FIA and manufacturers. This controversy had the potential to overshadow the season opener in Australia, with Mercedes suspected of exploiting a loophole to gain an advantage through the thermal expansion of engine components. The debate sparked talk of possible protests, but Mercedes has stated that any change in the rules would make no difference to their performance. To address the issue, the FIA has announced that amendments to the regulations have been approved by the World Motorsport Council. The governing body confirmed that the compression ratio will now be controlled in both cold and hot conditions starting from June the 1st. From 2027 onwards, the ratio will only be measured under operating conditions, ensuring consistency and fairness across all teams. This solution comes after initial proposals to only measure compliance at a representative operating temperature of 130 degrees Celsius from August the 1st, which would have affected over half the 2026 season. The new rules are designed to ensure that the compression ratio, limited to 16:1, is maintained during both cold and hot conditions, while all teams are in compliance with the cold measurements. Mercedes rivals feared the team's ability to exploit temperatures differences, potentially gaining a performance edge when the engine was running hot. This compromise, which includes a dual testing system for the first part of the season, has helped alleviate these concerns. With Mercedes supplying V6 engines to 4 teams, including reigning champions McLaren, the change ensures a level playing field. The compromise is seen as a significant step forward, especially with the major regulatory changes introduced for 2026. The FIA has also made additional amendments to the sporting and financial regulations to address broader issues related to energy management. We're now being joined by Charanjot Singh Kohli, who's a senior F1 writer, and he's joining us from New Delhi. Pleasure to have you on the show. Thank you for joining us. How do you think the introduction of dual testing for compression ratios will impact team strategies and overall engine performance in the upcoming season?
So primarily, if we are talking about the loophole, it has been reported that the advantage that Mercedes power units would gain would be around 10 to 20 HP. Whether that is true or not, again, it's not verifiable. It's essentially based on conjecture, because one of the employees that used to work with Mercedes at Brixworth had moved to Red Bull Powertrains in Milton Keynes. It's entirely based on that. However, if there has been so much talk around, so much conversation around this, we can assume that Mercedes was gaining advantage specifically from that loophole. 10 to 20 HP is huge. But there is also another question where even though the power unit could be measured in operating conditions, whether in those conditions Mercedes is still able to exploit the loophole or not. For now, what Toto Wolff has said is that Mercedes wasn't gaining too much of an advantage. So if we go by what he is saying, there won't be much of a difference in terms of the competitive order. But again, essentially, if you go by physics and logic, there should be a difference when it comes to plugging that specific loophole, where Mercedes could have theoretically gone to a compression ratio of 18:1 compared to what is prescribed at 16:1.
And with Mercedes engine suppliers involved in this controversy, how will this compromise affect the dynamics between the teams using Mercedes engines, like McLaren, Alpine, compared to those using rival manufacturers?
So it essentially depends on how good or bad the Mercedes power unit is. If essentially the power unit continues to have a decent advantage over the other manufacturers, then essentially it makes no difference, right? Because if Mercedes power unit is already having a certain gulf of performance compared to almost every other power unit, and this specific loophole, when it is plugged, it ends up reducing that advantage to a certain limit, then it doesn't make a difference, right? However, if all the competitive power units, which are Red Bull, Ferrari, for now these three are at the front, if the gap is minimal, then such a loophole being plugged is going to have at least some level of compromise for the power units, for the for the customers like McLaren, Williams, and Alpine.
And given the complex nature of engine components and materials used by teams, how confident are you that the new regulation will truly eliminate any potential advantages for manufacturers exploiting temperature-related discrepancies?
In Formula One, there are always going to be loopholes. We are just at the beginning of a new set of regulations. So this was the first thing that came up. There are still far too many variables. There's also a variable of fuel, the sustainable fuel that would be used. We could have discrepancies when it comes to that. We could have discrepancies in specific other areas as well when it comes to the power unit regulations. Again, it's Formula One. The rules and regulations are set up by the FIA, and it's essentially for any F1 engineer worth his salt, they read the regulations, and what they have to do is they need to understand what the regulations state, and they have to understand what the regulations does not specify. And then you try to ultimately exploit the gray areas and make the most of it. This time around, again, Mercedes got caught, but it was pretty much a unique and innovative solution that they put together. It's going to be a part of Formula One at the end of the day. We're going to see more, we're going to hear more such things. There are also going to be more innovations even on the chassis side as well. So again, it's Formula One. You're going to see teams exploit every gray area which is possible.
Thank you so much for joining us here on our World of Sports. It's been a pleasure speaking with you. Next, we move over to Kenya's Brigid Kosgei set a new course record with a commanding victory at the Tokyo Marathon. The 32-year-old finished in 2 hours, 14 and 29 minutes, more than 2 minutes ahead of Ethiopia's Berktukan Weld, who was second in 2 hours, 16 minutes and 36 seconds. Weld's Ethiopian competitor, Hoe Faisa, came third with 2 hours, 17 minutes and 39. The previous course record was 2 hours, 15 and 55, set by two-time Tokyo winner Sutem Asifa in 2024. Kosgei, who won marathon silver for the Kenya at the Tokyo Olympics in 2021, plans to represent Turkey at the 2028 Los Angeles Games. In the men's race, Ethiopia's Tradiz Takli defended his title in a thrilling sprint finish with Kenyan duo Jeffrey Toroch and Alexander Mutiso. Takeli clocked 2 hours, 3 minutes and 37, which was the same official time as second-placed Toroch, finishing just 1 second further back in third. And Apila's Marco Bezzecchi turned Saturday's sprint crash into Sunday's triumph, leading from start to finish to win the Thailand Grand Prix at the Chang International Circuit. Bezzecchi took victory by over 5 seconds ahead of KTM's Pedro Acosta and Trackhouse's Raul Fernandez, while defending champion Marc Marquez's race ended dramatically with a rear tyre puncture. Bezzecchi made history as the first Arpilla rider to win 3 consecutive Grand Prix, stretching back to last season. George Martin and AI Ogura completed the top 5 to cap a stellar day for Arpilla. Marquez's misfortune proved costly for Ducati, ending their 88th race podium streak dating back to 2021. Marquez started second but struggled to match the pace and retired on lap 21 after puncture at 176 kph. Meanwhile, Acosta, now leading the championship by 32 points, improved from last season's struggles, securing second place after Fernandez's tyre wear caused him to lose pace. Thank you for joining us on World of Sport. Keep watching NewsX World for more sports updates.